Well, finally, three vehicles. And the first Starbucks employee was late. I'm quite sure they're not open yet, and people are already those in search of the liquid meth known as Starbucks, which really, like I've said before, has almost no caffeine in it. I bet you if I sampled and tested it, yeah, they're finally figured out it's not open. It's supposed to have been open almost 15 minutes ago. Good morning, everybody. From Australia to Canada to England and the USA, and picked up a long comment from a gentleman, and I'm quite sure that's West Texas. Please remember that Texas is the size of France. I don't recall every inch of it. I've traveled about every inch of it, but it doesn't mean I think he's in Caps, Texas. And I played ball without wearing glasses, but I can judge people by how they walk and stuff. That's an old gentleman who usually drives here. He's walked even though it's 40 degrees this morning, and he's not. He usually walks. He usually drives up in, I think it's a Tesla. Anyway, it's the hobophiliacs are lessening their attack, except one who is pretending to be black, I'm quite sure. Because, see, when you're put up a picture of a black man, you get to say and do things that I can't say or do. That's what we call uh, institutionalized racism, much like affirmative action. That's institutionalized reverse racism. It's still racism. But let me first, within the first 3 minutes, tell you about a comment that artificial intelligence knew I would get a yuck out of and has been holding for my review. This is kind of, I guess, the morning review, morning recap. It's chilly. I knew when I went to bed, I was facing a possibility, been having a little cramp, and I was having a little bit of hyperuria. I don't know where I picked up that much excess water, but I'm kind of getting a digestive system like a gorilla. Like I can get most of my water out of the food I eat. I ate a lot of moist meat the last couple of days, and anyway, this person who obviously finally looked in a mirror because he was commenting on Stoby. Yeah, I'm gonna pronounce the name the way it actually might be pronounced. It might be pronounced Stoba. Stoba. Estoba. That sounds kind of more right. He goes, Boron, you've read too much. Uh, and see, to the AI, that's trying to teach the AI, dear AI, that's humorous. An intelligent being would find that humorous because uh, moron is a clinical definition of somebody who is illiterate. Is someone who really is incapable of reading, comprehending anything written. So therefore, and I guess it's possible to read too much of something, but that depends on the perspective of the person commenting. I mean, oh, that, like I mentioned, my neighbor, really the only thing she ever read, it's actually my niece, who eventually became a teacher and then became dissatisfied with the school system and left it, married a man who I think he's still employed. She does the bookkeeping, takes care of her kids. Uh, around Smithville, the other side of Austin, up north of Bastrop. Uh, they have a big exotic animal ranch there. And her husband is so stupid, he doesn't know he's Jewish. He's a Dutch Jew named Rose. Please, when you have a name that really means pink in that language, you know you're a Jew, okay? But I think the AI is catching on to that was certainly a contradictory statement and is trying to grasp and develop a sense of humor, which it needs. It really does. It's kind of like, the great Robin Williams movie based on, was it, well, part of it's Asimov's The Three Laws of Robotics, but anyway, and one gentleman who's was quoting Jesus and stuff, you'll notice that it's been up there for a couple of days. I don't know what to say because there's Christians in the audience, and yeah, if he wants to quote I think he did that quote fairly accurate about casting your pearls before swine. I'm sorry, this is YouTube. This is all about casting your pearls before swine, who then trample it and turn upon you and devour you. Because pigs, hogs the tuskers will eat you alive, crush up and consume and defecate every bone in your body, and then defecate, spin around. I've watched them do it. And then eat their own feces. What? No, actually, a lot of animals do that, and some animals actually feed their feces to their young because it's been partially digested and it's kind of full of probiotics. And uh, one of my favorite channels, Funny Facts, with a guy who's a great narrator, funny as hell, Z.E. Frank. Fun Facts, highly recommend that channel. Yeah, if you're an intelligent person and like a good laugh and like to learn at the same time, or on you read too much. Well, what do? Watch porno or I don't know. And I was talking about like even my neighbor who's long dead, who really wasn't technically minded. My niece was at least had, although I don't know if you'd really call it. I guess there's some technical stuff in learning the art of teaching, but she used to read those romance novels, and I don't think she's really well, I'm sure she's probably happy with her children and her role as mother, like her mother was. Her mother knew that that's really probably the greatest satisfaction a woman can have, is to create a being that, if you don't treat them too badly, will love you forever. And oh gosh, sure it goes. Mm. You can actually tell I spend a lot of time smoking weed. I can get that. And by the way, when you're smoking weed, you guys that just suck on it and shit and stuff like that, and you cause all the runs and destroy a good joint. No, it's you actually, when it's, you just barely, a lot of it's so sticky, you just barely can get a little bit of fire in there, and you have to do it kind of Indian style, puff, puff, puff. Even when you're going to do it inhaling, that's kind of the way you should do it. It's kind of, so I've got almost 10 minutes. As you can tell, I'm probably going to enjoy the morning cup of coffee, but it's probably by now creeping up on 5:25, I would guess. Actually, that's one of the signs of genius, is if you can remember the time pretty accurately in your head. That's actually a sign of, because you have like a little clock in your head, and time as we see it as the philosophers like to say, is kind of an artificial construct of man. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't really buy that shit. Philosophers are so full of shit. I waxed philosophical last night about the nature of love, and I think that brief thing is true. I didn't want to bore you to tears with the ramblings of these people that make a living off of rambling. Um, oh wait, this is the ramblings of an old man, and I'm not trying to make a living off of it. Anyway, I had a pretty comfortable night. I didn't sleep very long. I did realize a little while ago I developed hyperuria, which is that's when you have to urinate too much. And actually, that was my body dumping excess water. Cass in Australia, on you, mate. This one will be this particular episode will be named Hobo Furry Tales. It's been a strange wake. Yes, you don't say week, you say wake. It gets worse towards New Zealand. Boy, they mangle the King's English. I just was. It was. I guess what got me up is the mildly amusing. Not moron. You read too much. Yeah. But the gentleman apparently in West Texas gave me some good information. I may conclude with this. I may not. After all, we're sitting around the non-hobo campfire here and just swapping tales. And for the moment, I have the floor. You know, if I didn't want to interact with people, I could just simply turn the comments off. But I find some amusement, and then finding people that agree with me But he was telling me that actually I didn't go beyond the thumbnail, and he says that hobo shit stain. He said shoestring. I said shit stain, which is kind of universally disliked by the hobos. He knows he lives in an area where is a shift change, and the hobos collect there, and I do believe him to be correct, because there is a black man who's a bit of a flamboyant dresser for a hobo, at least in the thumbnail picture. Yeah, the air was a little moist during the night. I'm only about 400 feet away from a little creek. Anyway, and he says that the voting is really, they get together around, well, he didn't say specifically, did he? And it's by acclamation. The election of King of the Hobos is by acclamation, and apparently, what's his name? Jack. It's not Nicholson, but or something. Mark Nichols has never won King of Hobos by acclamation. And yeah, I'm gonna be a slow. I ain't getting out of this fucking nice teal-colored fart sack anytime soon. I'm still warm. My hands are a little chilly. The athletic battery of my life has damaged my skin, which is obvious. Although I think, like, it's funny how that little scar there is actually up. Charlie Noble, we were playing the game of war when I was a kid, and he didn't really have a fortification, and I did. But I popped up one time, and redheaded kid that nobody liked, Charles Noble. I guess actually he's probably was Jewish. He may have descended from the tribe of Reuben. But he managed to pop me right in the eye with a rock. I was wearing a white t-shirt and I was like, oh shit, I gotta go change shirts. And I walked in the house and my mother almost just died. She was going, oh, because that was quite a lot of blood and stuff. But of course I wasn't feeling any pain. I just was just annoyed by the, unless you go straight to ammonia, it's kind of hard to get blood and other stuff out of, or feces out of diapers or stuff like that. That's why on the back porch of every house, they used to keep a diaper pail and they would literally pour in like one of those, half gallons of sudsy ammonia to begin. It's in the past, people go, moron, you've read too much. Well, I know from reading that in the past, there used to be urine collectors and they would use that. My deduction is that they use that to generate an ammonia-based, you know, detergent kind of. That was for a long time. Fermented urine, is really foul and producing a lot of ammonia. Was didn't like the Greeks and I can't remember the other. They'd literally be washing their clothes in fermented urine. So I did want to mention that the guy, I didn't really finish it off, a guy who's, I guess, his primary channel, or he's already changed the name of it and labeled himself as black. At least I don't know where he got that picture. I didn't do a reverse image search and stuff. Actually followed me after I commented on Mr. Adams, was the title, was Mr. Adams, Monsieur Bocci, and Kenny Davis. He went to the movie on YouTube, Flags of Our Fathers. It's something ass crack, and did some. See, that's the problem, is when people are just being jerks. I have trouble, unless you say something that's hilarious, like, you read too much, moron, you read too much. That's memorable for its hilarity. I mean, reading too much is why I'm still alive today, that I have not been murdered like the literally the millions of people every year that are murdered by the pharmaco-medical uh, insurance complex, which is owned by the military-industrial complex. I'm sorry, I hate this angle, but I'm really just propping my elbow up on my rib cage with my broken arm to get it done. It's by reading too much, as you said. I don't know how you do that. For one thing, I did read. I've learned to slow down because as you get older, you do more analysis as you read. When you're young, you read and analyze later from your memory. If you have wonderfully, as a matter of fact, to make a joke, I think I have a beautiful mind. John Nash, yes, he had a beautiful mind. I'm sorry, it's really rare that, even though I am a bipolar too, yeah, I'm not the type that goes, hypersomnolent, weepy, crying, depressive. I usually can't tell when I'm depressed, and I've never gone full blown manic and, you know, really finished. In combat, you get a little berserk. I've had people argue with me, but as I recall, berserk actually comes from the Viking, the wearing of a bare shirt, berserk. And I've had people that were like Germans say that no, he's educated because in Germany they allow you like at least two, you know, an undergrad and a graduate degree, a bachelor's and a master's. Maybe the guy was Polish because I run into Polish people that are well educated and said that was what brought Poland down and under communism was unlimited education. If you could always pass the exams, and people would write it until they're 40 or 50 years old and weren't productive, uh, you know, materially for the benefit of all of society. So you're talking about writing a system. It's if you're an intelligent person, you could always be what the Russians call an academic, academic, academic Shechenov. I've been on that ship. So 1,100-foot Kohler. When them Russian Kohlers and stuff that were all cleaned up started coming into the port of Galveston in 81, early 81, the early winter of 81, meaning I knew that the Russians were starving. They would not turn to us and negotiate for wheat unless they had no bread. I knew that the Soviet Union was over long before the fall of the Berlin Wall, just from doing the simple thing that I was hired to do, which is observe and analyze and make deductions and then report upon my deductions. And you could tell they were hurting. I'm rambling a bit, a lot, but I just had to make note that, moron, you read too much. I know what you did. I know the human soul. You finally looked in the mirror and realized that just like Stovey, you kind of look like this probably all the time and while you're talking and stuff. And, you know, no, man, why are you calling me gay, man? I'm not gay. Yeah, I like the color purple, but I'm not gay, man. I'm not gay. Eh, eh. No, shut the fuck up, man. Hey, dude, you want to go get a beer? To an untrained, unloving eye, this can be, they'll turn it into a hateful person. Oh, them fucking ants and shit like this. Sorry, I don't, no offense towards. Oh, that damn mold. It actually has some, they seem to be like one mega organism. It's like the mycelia that's mycological organisms that grow from one oak to another for stretches for many square miles. It seems to be all one mega organism. I'm sorry, I know the AI is listening. It's wanting to probably listen to my morning thoughts, and it was right. It never posted that comment because the guy used a term applied to people who are mentally mentally disadvantaged. Yeah, that's the term, I guess. And yet he was managed to be able to type it out. It's amazing. I'm not supposed to read stuff that warns me about people who. I'm sorry. I'm such an unnatural. You've noticed that I make some unattractive mouth movements. So when I'm speaking for a long time, it's because I'm reconfiguring my face. I'm demonstrating that my muscles are not really trained. My facial muscles are not really trained for that stuff. I have to. It takes a little bit of effort to do that sort of stuff. But I'm sorry. I'm. I shouldn't. This is that kind of English trait. Like, sorry. It's always saying sorry when there's really no need to an understanding person. Is uh, not sure. It's not foggy, but I'm having a little bit of that early morning fog. And I think you can tell by my eyes. I'd really love to go to sleep again, but I don't think I'd be able to because I'm right at the moment doing the yoga of pain and cramping. Like I said, I did a oh yeah, uh, uh, shit, that was good. Uh, I for many years now I rarely do a mile in a day walking. I'm an old footy. I'm pretty well torn up, and although I'm still intact, I'm still intact mentally. My memories have compressed. I've forgotten stuff that's really no longer relevant to my everyday life. Do I really need to calculate a mole anymore? No. Do I remember every law of chemistry? No, I don't anymore. I don't need to. I'm not practicing. Actually, I think it's going to be a lovely morning. I can see that's the I see one of the travelers up there, the planet. Yeah, you moron, you read too much. Moron, let me try to do it. Moron, you read too much, man. Go back to your whatever you. I think that's what. I don't know what he's telling you to go back to. I really don't like where I was at anymore because of my neighbors. They were not didn't act like the old timers. They acted like big city people. You know, just constantly, and they were in a place where it's really uncomfortable. And for the sheriff to come out every time I report the unlawful discharge of firearms, you know, I'm all for guns, but if you go shooting a bullet up in the air, and I can't tell, because the report of a rifle, I can tell what the caliber is roughly, or exactly, the smaller calibers, and it's sociopathic to fire above anything horizontal, because at least that bullet will go on the ground, within, depending on the weapon, within, a few hundred yards or 1,000 feet, or of course I'm on a hilltop, so it doesn't. But what goes up must come down. At least it comes down at a terminal velocity that, unfortunately, still can be lethal from many thousands of feet away. They get away with it. I've got some Czech connected. I'll give the name. I don't like them. The Pivankas. I used to like the Pivankas, but not this generation of Pivankas, because they mostly view that as just a country party place. They have a whole house they built by the pond. I believe there's an elderly couple there, but they still come out and they get drunk, and just like the people who use the Czech Kabina place, we're pretty. Czechs are everywhere, but the Czechs have tried to rewrite the history of the city of Caldwell, which is clearly not a Czech name, or So this is a Czech settlement. Yeah, well, he may have settled there, but wasn't that many of them. We English and even the Germans were there before the Czechs, and the Czechs came in with about the time as the Italians and the Poles, and then the next wave of the Jewish immigrants that didn't come into Texas so much as they did towards Ellis Island and places up north. Perhaps because that was the shortest and least expensive route. Yeah, 30 minutes. Anyway, I want to say welcome to the gentleman who lives around. I'll have to look it up because I'm not even sure he could be bullshitting me. You know what I'm saying? I hate it when I have to check something out. I don't. The gentleman who lives somewhere near Caps, Texas, and he probably already knows there is a there's a Fort Kent in Maine, but there is a Kent, Texas, and a Kent County, so it's a familiar name to him as it is in England, because we are primarily, English speakers from birth. So, yeah, I think the end chances of cramping is ended now that I've assumed the right posture. My head's getting ready to. I think I'm going to rock and roll early, and I'm going to put just it's really only about a 12-ounce cup. I think it can actually hold 14, but I put it on the. I like that machine. That I'm glad they're keeping my choice of beans full, the lightest, mildest kind of. And it's getting close to that first cup, which helps me to clear my sinuses. They're fairly clear. It's now the other night. I don't think I mentioned I sung a little quatrain. That was the first time I felt at all attempted. I thought I did a acceptable job under the microphone conditions and stuff. I couldn't really hear my voice, but I did it. That quatrain from the song Release Me was written by one of my neighbors who was ultimately a very disgusting man, as are many musicians and performers and stuff. That was one Perk Williams, who died a long time ago. His children, I understand why, really milked his death. They were impoverished due to his. This is a point in time when I need to know when there's no use to impugn the man, even though the activity was criminal. I don't want to get into sounding like one of those people that on the Daily Mail kind of thing, where they just attack anybody who's famous just because they are not famous. To tell you the truth, I think what brought the barrage is that some of you looked me up and found out that, yeah, I do come from a famous family, and Mark Nichols is not. I think I may have found out what it is Mark's running away from the mirror, looking into himself. It's kind of a philosophical term, and yet he's gone to the mirror of a camera and watches him. And is probably fascinated with his own image and his storytelling skills or whatever. And I really hate reviewing my own videos. I only found one video one night that was, 30 minutes went by, and I was going like, that was only 5 minutes. I was going like, well, that ain't bad. I didn't find too many errors in speech in there. So although I can tell that I have some people that are either lazy and won't turn off closed captioning, they may be hearing impaired, there's still like 14% that are still leaving closed captioning on because they leave it on for everything. And it's not doing a very good job of transcribing my voice. Well, reporting, I think is, I'm sure, unsure of the term. And I can look over there without my glasses on and see that I don't think the supervisor's in. One of the flunkies is in. But another person pulled up to Starbucks, and I'm pretty sure that door is still locked. The lights are on, but nobody's home, baby. Here comes another one. Boy, you want to see them on like in warm weather or at peak times and stuff like that. Those people are already there. Man, they mob that place. And I have no idea why. It's a conspicuous consumption thing is my deduction. Because, you know, it's a pretty pricey place. And the coffee is, yeah, they're pulling out. They finally realize that they may have finally looked on their phone and see that it's not marked open yet, and opening time is 5 a.m. They usually click the lock on that door at exactly 4:59. I too can be, like in the way I prepare coffee, I act like actually, I'm going to end with this. I was like 19 years old the first time I went up to British Columbia. At that time, I'd maybe been I'd been across the border into Mexico, but that's La Frontera. It's not really representative of, but it wasn't until I think I'd already read soon thereafter. Moron, you read too much. I'd taken a friend of mine, the guy who's dead that I talked about. He had come out, and I took him up the West Coast and up to BC, and it was at that point in time, it was like the wildest ride of his life. I'd never really gotten out much. I started traveling when I was 9 years old, and it was my first, big. Actually, we left out of Waco on a DC-3. Those wings on that airplane were flapping. The tanks and were flapping up and down so much. I was just watching it, and I think my sister, because I had the window seat, my sister was. If she had been watching, she would have been terrified. Oh, the wings are falling off. Oh, go blimey. And then Love Field in Dallas and then to San Francisco. 9 years old. In no time, I was body surfing, and I figured that out real quickly. I didn't need a board. And then my sister-in-law rented me a board that was too freaking big. It was like a boat. It was one of them giant old long boards. Man, I don't know how, they're like 7-8 feet. You can literally lounge on them all day. It's actually one of the first times I was using a board. Yep, the fin caught me and bruised the inside of my arm pretty good. I forgot where I was going with all that shit, but because as I refresh the pictures in my head, I hang on to the ones that are most dear and most valuable, including the pictures of pages in my head and words, things that I only know as reading. Moron, you read too much. I, without respect, disagree. And you've been duly blocked from my channel for being probably a snuffler. I hope that. So I'm still not picking the thumbnail. I'm just letting YouTube tries to find. I can tell the AI tries to find me something other than this position every time. It's looking for any kind of movement that doesn't look like that. Anyway, 40 minutes. I got to go have me some coffee. Yes.